Welcome to No Borders with Brian and Carrie. This week what we are discussing is how you can generate some income while you are traveling full-time. This is a question we get quite often from people of just, you maybe decided to hit the road, you're retired, you're traveling full-time, but you'd like to have a little bit of money coming in.
Yeah, even if it's a couple $100, it makes a big difference. It's going to maybe buy your food that month. It might go towards your beer budget. It might go towards some entertainment. So why not do it? And we're going to discuss a few different ways on just how to do that. And we know of these ways because we know people that actually do it.
Right. Now when we first started traveling, we decided to start YouTube for that same reason.
Right.
It was like, well, let's just start it. And our initial goal was, it'd be great if we could make some money to really just pay for, we were so budgeted that we were hoping to make some money to pay for some extra excursions, just kind of take the edge off a little bit, because I think we wouldn't have been able to do a lot of those extras if we hadn't had a little bit of extra money coming in.
Exactly, and we're glad we did. Now, for us on YouTube, it might have taken a couple years worth of free work, which a lot of people aren't willing to do, but we enjoyed doing it so much that we just stuck at it.
Right. So the first area, and probably the most popular area where a lot of people might already be making some money from, is you're going to have investments that you've already invested in prior to leaving, or maybe you have real estate that you have rented out, and so you would have that monthly income coming in.
Yes. Now, we've had a number of people, I can't even begin to count how many people have said you should have kept your homes and rented them out and used that money to travel. Valid point. And you can absolutely do that. In our case, we didn't want to, simply because we were homeowners for 30 years. We knew what it takes to be a homeowner. We didn't want to hassle with it.
Right.
We also wanted to be debt free.
Right. And the house that I had that I sold about a year or so before we started traveling, it was a newer place that I had recently bought for a rental, but it was just the rent was paying the bills. It wasn't like it was money that I was making. And so, this is one of those areas where people have asked us our views on that, and to each their own. For us personally, and we've heard from some other people as well, that when you are renting a house out, that you are going to be in a whole nother country. So you're going to have a property management taking care of it.
Right.
So you have that expense on it, but then you also have to deal with just anything that goes wrong with it. Even though a property management company is taking care of it, you still get to answer all the questions. You still get to get the phone call that the refrigerator just broke, and those are all unexpected expenses that, we just don't have the budget that we wanted to have those unexpected expenses.
We just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
But you can. I would encourage you to do it. If you own your own home, it might be a good way to go. Freelancing. Now, if you have expertise in just about any category, something that you've been doing for 30, 35, 40 years, you're probably pretty good at it by now, and there are others that want to know about what you're doing. This might sound kind of foreign to a lot of people, like, why would anybody want to know how to do this, that, or the other? Well, I can guarantee you somebody out there wants to know how to do it. And if you have that expertise, that's something you can teach them. Yeah,
and I was actually very surprised when I was on their websites, because this is something I looked at doing right out the gate, because I definitely had skills that would work in this area. But then we did YouTube, and so I didn't have any time for that.
She's got new skills now.
Now I have different skills.
Yes.
But there's a lot of websites out there. There's a lot of work out there to do, and the beauty of it is it really doesn't matter where you are located, because most of it is done on your own time. So as long as one of those per piece things that you can finish a job, and they don't care, necessarily that you're maybe in a totally different country. But there are a few different websites. There's Fiverr, I believe Upwork, and then Freelancer. All of them I kind of checked out. They were all rated pretty good. So it's kind of fun to go through there and maybe just check out the opportunities that are available, and see if they fit your skill level.
Well, and right now you're all thinking, gosh, what can I do? Your wheels are spinning right now. Well, like, what is my expertise? What can I do? Something's popped in your head by now. Go on to YouTube, type it in, how to, and you're going to see videos come up on that exact same thing. And you know what? You might be better at it than they are.
Right. Now the other area is say you have, once again, you've worked a job and you were a professional in a certain area, you could become a consultant, you know, and this is something, once again, that can be done from anywhere in the world. You know, you may have to do it a little bit in the middle of the night, depending on the time frame. But, you know, we've talked to some people, we've actually met with some people that this is jobs that they were offered, you know, even from their previous job, that they could do consulting and just kind of be on a per time basis. Like, it wasn't necessarily you were committed to working a certain amount of hours per week. It was more, we need you for this period of time. So I think that would be an option as well.
Yeah, I actually I have a family member who was going to retire, and they said, well, hang on, that's fine. What about this option? And so she's still kind of on the payroll, but she consults and she has a lot of free time. Online teaching, English is a second language. Now, we know people that do this. There is a certification that you have to go through, but if you're fluent in English, you probably qualify. I probably don't qualify on that, but a lot of you will. That's also something that we have a couple people that we know that do that.
And this was something, once again, that I kind of looked into as well. I don't have the qualifications. I don't have any of the degrees that were needed for this, but you very well may. And I know some of them, there was different qualifications based on what company you were going with. But once again, this is one of those things that, you know, as long as you speak English fluently, which majority of us do, apparently you're struggling.
Sometimes I get messed up on certain big words.
But, you know, you're teaching to usually to kids, but not all the time. You can be teaching to adults as well. And this can be online, but it also can be in person in a classroom. So, you know, there's a lot of opportunities for this. Once again, there's a lot of different websites that you can use as well. Let me look here and tell you what they are. There was one called VIPKid, iTutorGroup, or Teachaway. And I haven't used any of those, but I did look at each of those and they were all rated about the same. So once again, just go check it out. See what the qualifications are, see what the requirements as far as your time that would be required. Because I think it's one of those, you kind of get to pick how much time you're willing to put into it, you know.
If you're an English teacher and you're willing to travel the world, this might be the perfect opportunity.
You're qualified.
You're qualified.
Now, another option would be being a tour guide. Now, this is kind of one of those areas that is a little gray because you are going into another country, and if you are, say, English speaking, then that puts you in a bonus level as far as, because majority of tours we've looked at doing, you pick the tour that you're going on based on what language they're going to be speaking.
Right. We almost had to go on an Italian one time because it was the only one available.
Yeah.
And I almost didn't care. I just wanted to go on the tour. But we found an English-speaking one, so we're going to do that tour with English so I can understand what's going on.
So we can understand, that's a bonus. But, you know, and this is one of those areas, though, that you do want to very much be aware of, is that if you are, say, working for a company in the country that you're going to be in, then you want to make sure that you're checking the visa requirements on that, because just like any of the other ones, if you're going to be teaching actually in a classroom, you're going to need to check the visa requirements, because do you have a work permit to work there? Now, if you were, say, to do tutoring or do tour guide, but you are just offering your services personally, say on Facebook or something like that, then you're kind of walking that gray area where you could potentially not have to necessarily do that. So I would say that would kind of be a fun, if you're very familiar with an area, you've been there quite a while, or maybe you've just traveled there a lot and just interests you a lot, people would be willing to listen to you talk and tell them about it.
There might be some tax implications on that as well that you'll have to look into, like we talked about. But those are all opportunities that a lot of people take advantage of.
The next area, which I think is interesting to a lot of people, because it doesn't require you to have to necessarily go out and find something. Like, this is totally 100% on your own time. It's kind of like us with YouTube. And this is start a blog or write a book. It's become a lot easier to do those things because, you know, once again, you can just do it on your own. You start up a website, there's free options to do that. Of course, if you want to be able to make some money doing it, you're going to have the paid option to do that for a website. But then write your blogs, write your stories from where you've traveled, and and just share all of those experiences. And then you're basically, the way you're getting paid is because then you have ads on your website. You got
those ads, yeah. And again, you might not think anybody's going to be interested, but whatever you're good at or wherever you've been or whatever you've done, people want to know about it. I'm going to do a shameless plug from my son-in-law. He wrote a book, Busser to Landlord. He started as a busser at 17 years old, and he wrote a book recently, had it published. We're going to put the link to that below. I want you to check it out because honestly, it can be done. He wrote a book on how he achieved his success.
Right.
And it's pretty darn cool. I'm very proud of him. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And that is one of those other things, like it doesn't have to necessarily be about your travels. It can be from whatever life experience that you had in your life or your job or whatever you're interested in, what you're good at.
Whatever you're good at, whatever your interest level, whatever your expertise is, write about it, put it on paper and see what happens because you just never know. I'm super proud of my son-in-law. Check that link out, I want you to. Photography, now you're going, traveling, you're gonna get a camera. It's probably the first thing you're gonna buy is a camera. One thing I'd suggest, learn a little bit about the camera before you buy it, because I went out and bought a camera, had no idea how to use it. I've since sold it. But photography is a big thing. Obviously, you're going to be taking pictures. Take those pictures, and there's plenty of websites you can put those pictures on, and people buy them.
Right, and
advertisers buy them.
Right, and it's a cool way to do it because if it's just something you absolutely love doing, you are doing something you enjoy doing. And you're probably doing it anyways. You're taking these pictures for yourself and then you just put them up onto these websites. And then if somebody else really likes it and say they want to use it for their website or they want to buy it to print it, then they pay you for it. So that's kind of fun.
I've got a friend back home, Mark Joseph Photography. I'll even plug him. He does this, and his daughter was down in Seattle and looked up and saw a billboard of her dad's picture because that company purchase that picture and put it up on their billboard. So things like that can happen. If you're a photographer or just you're a hobbyist, why not make money at it?
And then the other area, you can also offer your photography skills or videography skills wherever you're traveling to other people. Once again, this could be done on, say, a Facebook group that you're on or traveling some kind of site like that. But once again, we would guide you to make sure the legalities of offering those services and getting paid in another country, and just make sure you're not breaking any laws there. But I think that would also be kind of a fun, if it's something that you say in the past you've done wedding photography or you've done any kind of photography, you take those skills with you and then you can put them to good use in the areas you're traveling to as well.
If you've got skills, use them.
Another option is to just work remotely. This is another area that I looked into. It's a little bit more of a challenging area because of the time differences that you're going to be facing depending where you're traveling to. But this is one of those, you can still continue to do any kind of customer service, virtual assistant, a lot of different kind of office jobs, especially after COVID. A lot of jobs switched over to remote that weren't remote before and then never came back to in the office. And, that works really great for a lot of us that are on the road. It gives you that opportunity to continue working.
Right. We also know somebody that did this. Now, she was up until 4 o'clock in the morning, our time, where we were at. But she did it, and she's parlayed that in. She's back in the States now into a full-time promotion, I think she got. So those things are also opportunities. Now, she's a lot younger than we are. She wasn't ready to retire by any means. She's not even 30 years old yet, but she did a lot of remote work.
Yeah, so I would say that this, to me, would probably be a great option if you're still willing to be under a time clock, because this is not one of those where you get to set your own time. Usually you are, especially if you're doing any kind of customer service or answering any phones or anything, you are going to have to make sure that you are available during those times. But just like when we're traveling to Mexico, the time difference we're only looking at is 1-2 hours. And so not a big deal. You can totally adjust your schedule. And, if you're working part-time, you still have plenty of the day to go do what you want to go do.
You can go all the way to Argentina and be relatively on the same time zone.
Now, Southeast Asia was the biggest challenge. That was 14 hours time difference.
That was a tough one. E-commerce. Now, the internet. You've already figured out what you're good at. You already have a hobby. You already have something that you really you're good at it. Why not sell it? you can put up an online shop and sell things online.
Right. I think that as soon as stores fronts like Shopify or Etsy started up,
right.
you know, whatever you're good at, whatever you're good at creating, and it's a little tough when you're on the road what those creations might be, but there's
right.
a lot of digital products that people create. So you might be creating calendars, planners, things like that, you know, any kind of like organizational books. There's a lot of that out there, and so put your spin on it, and then you find a printing company that you go through, and it's just a drop ship kind of situation, so you don't actually have to carry any product. They just buy it, and then it's created by that company. So it's kind of a nice opportunity. Now, an area that I could see myself doing, maybe not right now, but I could see myself doing it later, because it is actually something that I very much enjoy. I used to be good at it as far as I did it for work, as far as travel planning. So offering tourism services, so booking trips for people, travel planning for them, coming up with itineraries, doing all the ins and outs and all the little pieces that need to go together for a trip, I think would be a lot of fun. And I do it all the time.
She does it all the time. She does it for me now.
Yeah, so it might be something
works out
that
great.
I would look at doing later, maybe when we eventually are settled someplace. I could see myself doing something like this, especially with the amount of places that we have now traveled that I feel like I know pretty darn well. Now I have a lot of insight to those areas.
Right, and I think if you're planning on doing some full-time traveling, and this intrigues you because you might not be an expert at it right now, but if you're planning on full-time traveling, you will be an expert at it. So right out of the gate, start taking notes, start thinking about what kind of itinerary you'd put together. And you might put together a great itinerary the first month you're on the road that somebody might buy. It's just something to think about. It's something that, like Carrie was just saying, we've thought about doing something like this. But we got a lot on our plate right now, so we're going to back off on that. You can have it, though.
Right, and eventually I think I'd rather work with a client where they're like, we want to travel to, say, Spain, or Portugal would be a great example, and just, you know, where would you suggest going? What would you suggest seeing? This is how many days we have and all that. I think that that would be a really kind of fun thing to do. It's also kind of a way to relive all of the places that you have traveled, because you get to remember it all as you're sharing that itinerary with them.
Right, we just do videos on it now.
Yeah.
And we give it to you for your time, which is worth something. It's not free. It's worth your time.
Yes.
Which we very much appreciate.
Well, we hope that this sparked a few ideas for you, maybe areas you hadn't thought of, so that you can go check those out if you were maybe looking for a way to bring in a little bit more resources while you're on the road, or not even so much that. You might just be looking to maybe fill some time,
just do something.
feel useful in a different area, or whatever it is. So, if you would like to find us at other social networks, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube at Brian and Carrie. And then you can also find us on our website, which is brianandcarrietravels.com. And on there, you'll find a lot of different free resources. So I would highly suggest checking that out.
Check out that website. If you like this video, please subscribe. And check out my son-in-law's book.
It's a good one. All right, cheers.